Recently I played Stellar Blade, and the controversy around Eve, more specifically her body and her outfits, came up again. People were trashing the game, calling it a Gooner game, pointing all fingers to the mods that are smut, and then you have people fighting back, saying in Baldur's Gate 3 you have an actual sex scene with a bear. And those same people that are complaining about Eve, those were praising Baldur's Gate for this exact same scene. So what the hell is going on? How do we get to this point? What is the issue with sexualization? And what is actually DEI? Now, before you jump to any conclusions, because I know this is a very heated topic, I would ask you to watch the video first and then comment on what you think and feel about it afterwards. I even bought a study about the topic to get some factual data. I'll mostly focus on Stellar Blade, but will also bring some other games like Tomb Raider, Last of Us, as well as the Resident Evil works to tackle the issue, so let's get into it. First question, how did we get here? I think there's still leftovers from the Gamergate debacle from a few years back. Even though I'm chronically online, I didn't catch too much wind of the Gamergate controversy, so I'll just sum it up into 2 points that I think resulted from that controversy for today's topic. One of them is fairly agenda-driven, it relates to the influence on some gaming journalists, as well as the introduction of DEI, and the other one is actual care about the negative influences of games on people and their well-being. So one of them is what everyone complains about, and the other one is what nobody complains about. But I think both of them at their core have good and similar intentions, just that one of them got radicalized. Like when Ania Sarkeesian made her videos about tropes of women in video games, the idea was good. I like those kind of analysis, but her execution was poorly done, which made things in total look really bad. Like when she said in Hitman specifically women are targeted for violence and is encouraged, when actually it isn't, because you lose points for killing anyone but the actual target. Neither was it targeted, because you can kill anybody regardless of gender, age, social standing, etc. It felt like she didn't actually analyze, but had an opinion and was trying to force-proof that, which resulted in people immediately and understandably fighting back. But sadly this somewhat buried the actual topic under this culture war. Since the topic is still heated, I want to approach it from a more neutral basis. Because sexualization has been shown to have negative effects in things like magazines and movies. But what does it actually look like in gaming? Personally, I really enjoyed Stellar Blade. I'm about to finish my New Game Plus playthrough, but I'm also a lefty and a liberal. So shouldn't I not play this game out of principle? Well, no, I like it, it's a good game. But I do have an issue with it being called a Gooner game. I talked about this in my last video as well. Stellar Blade is a good game, and I want people to try it and not get spooked off by all the Gooner accusations. Same for the devs. I want them to succeed, and that means people playing their games. Sure, now you could say that there were enough sales and there's no need, but there are people who might really enjoy the game and were just really listening to bad press, thinking they were actually gonna play Skimpy Blade instead. And I'm not denying that there is skimpiness, I just want people to see the game for what it actually is, because it's a lot more than just that. Which I guess you could look at metaphorically for the sexualization of women, and that I also don't want women to be only looked at sexually, but for who they are as a person. And maybe with that, also sexualization might be okay in general, as long as someone doesn't lose sight of that. But let's check out the study first, because I think otherwise I might just sound weird here. The study I looked at is a meta-analysis of multiple other studies that have tried to examine the effects of video games on people with the 2 following criteria. First of them, mental health impacts. This included developing a negative body issue, feeling depressed about stuff like that, for example. And the other one was developing more hostile views towards women through sexism and misogyny. The study did say that there has to be more research done about the topic in the future because of the small amount of studies and other issues, but with the current base of evidence, there is no significant support for those claims. So as of right now, sexualization in video games seems to not have any negative influence on men or women. Then why is this such a big topic? Well, if you're coming from other types of medias like magazines or movies and TV shows, there is a negative influence on body image or promotion of sexism. So applying those same thoughts onto games as another type of media, you end up at this spot where we are currently at. Now again, more research needs to be done to see how much the influence actually is, or why video games do not have the same effects. However, I have some thoughts to answer these questions. The study itself says in the beginning that if the game features a strong female protagonist, they already aren't qualified anymore. And I mean, there is a tag on Steam for that even. But here's number 1 of why video games might not have that effect, and it lies somewhere between the uncanny valley and suspension of disbelief. Video games, even if they're close to photorealism, don't quite feel the same as actors do, and how we see other people in real life. This disconnect might be enough to separate any subconscious negative influence we might fall victim to. Because, think about it. You always know you're playing a game. I mean, sure, you can be super immersed in the world, but that immersion is another world. The world of the game, not real life. Hell, many people play video games for reasons of escapism, because real life has really shitty balancing and only the graphics are good. But I think this is the first point of what might set video games apart from other types of media. As for number 2, you are her. Yes, I just made you transgender unless you're already a girl. But seriously, you are playing as the character. You're going through the story with that character. So especially if you're someone who's getting very immersed, this humanizes the character in-game. If sexualization is reducing someone to an object with only sexual features, then playing through a story should have the exact opposite effect of de-objectifying them. I saw this with Nier, and I bring this post up all the time because I really like it. Came for a cute robot girl but stayed for existential crisis. The prime case of got booty baited and actually stayed for the experience, and you can tell me that after playing the game you didn't feel with and or for the characters. So since video games actually allow you to interact and play yourself and not just watch, it gives you a unique experience in which I think many negative aspects of sexualization of other types of medias could be negated. Now, I'm no professor on the topic, so I'd love to see some more research about it in future, but for now, that's my opinion. But still, how to solve the issue? Like I said, since I'm not all-knowing and I might be wrong, how could this problem be solved until we know for sure? In recent years, we had a huge amount of DEI initiatives to make games more inclusive, but personally, I think with the way it was executed, it just backfired. Because personally, I like inclusion, I like equality, and I like some diversity. Usually, you would have to simply through things like different races in, let's say, an RPG, and how racism is portrayed there. For example, like in The Witcher with the humans versus the elves. Sure, this is a fantasy setting and DEI is more focused on real-world applications, which is maybe why in Dragon Age the Veilguard the sentence, so I'm non-binary, it just feels so out of place. Like seriously, I'm a lefty and I didn't ask for this, that's just cringe. But look at Ellie from The Last of Us. She's a lesbian. Did anybody care? Like in a negative way? No, I don't think so. She's representation done right, because she's a full person on her own and does not define herself only through her sexual orientation. She's just a person that also happens to be gay. That's it. I feel like DEI implementation was just actually meeting a quota and then just forcing in stuff that wasn't planned to be there, which again is why it often feels out of place. So DEI, or maybe let's say representation, can be done better instead. So it is not outright bad, which some people might have said in retaliation. But what about sexualization? As part of being more progressive, you don't want women, also men, but mostly women in our society, to be objectified. I don't want women to be sexualized and feel bad and develop a negative body image, or be treated worse because of video games or anything really. But according to the study, at least right now, they couldn't prove this to be the case. So it should be good on that front for now, which I guess leaves one more question. Is there something wrong with being a Gooner game, if sexualization doesn't hurt? Well, I'm no fan of a Gooner game personally, but that is me. If there are people that like those games, then I don't care. As long as nobody's getting hurt from whatever the thing is you like. This is my view on everything basically. Like, you like religion? Yeah, not my cup of tea, but that's cool, you go man. But if religion suddenly says women are less and should be treated as such, then I have an issue with you. So when it comes to gooning, do whatever you want with your free time, but don't force your view on others. Which is, I guess, ironically, what the misimplementation of DI has been doing. Again, my personal take here is probably choice. And I think this is how this issue could be lessened. You want to wear skimpy outfits in the game? That is your choice. I wasn't a big fan of the skimpy outfits. All my preferred outfits are the sporty or casual ones, plus the one planet diving suit that actually reduces your assets in size. So choice in the end should be there. In my last video, one of my issues was that there are not enough streetwear or casual outfits in my opinion, but too many skimpy ones, because those are the ones that I like. But people misunderstood that as I want the skins that I don't like to be removed. No, just offer a lot of skins and everyone can choose whatever they like. I think a lot of the controversy comes either from people assuming that sexualized characters will have negative influences in real life, or they're unhappy solely with it being only one-sided. I've yet to play Baldur's Gate 3, but from what I have seen, there are a lot more romance and sex options in the game than Cellblade can even begin to compete with. But then again, they're all and everywhere. Not just women, but literally, potentially everyone. Or also absolutely no one, if you choose not to engage in anything like that. So again, choice might be the magic word. Eve has tons of revealing outfits. However, Adam is clothed through and through. He didn't get a beach skin or a barbarian loincloth skin. No, he's completely clothed in all his skins. One skin even so much you don't see his face anymore. So the only way to fix this issue is to give Adam a barbarian loincloth skin and the dispute will finally be put to rest. No, seriously though, I'm not sure if that would help. but it plays into the same point of choice from earlier, and having options, and if more people are happier and get to play the game and there are less controversies, wouldn't that be better for everyone? Because I am getting tired of all the controversies. Also, initially, I want to feature sexualization of men here as well, because there definitely has been an increase for men suffering from body image, which prior was more reserved to women. However, this comes again from the real world and not video games, when you have some people say that Henry Cavill in Superman has a dad bod. He is literally Superman. That is not a dad bod. That is Superman. But after a study showing that video games seemingly don't have an actual effect on people, I cut it from the video, but wanted to mention it here anyway. So if new information comes to light about the effects of sexualization in video games, I will make a follow-up video on this. Now lastly, just in case sexualization in video games has negative side effects that have yet to be discovered, and looking at, in my opinion, what DEI was actually trying to achieve, I want to finish this video by talking about a few games that had changes that I think were great, progressive, and didn't make anyone pissed off either. Now, I'm assuming most of you know who Lara Croft is. She's the main protagonist of the Tomb Raider series, which, by the way, Tomb Raider Chronicles for the PS1 was my first game that I bought with my own money, but I digress. Lara Croft has often been sexualized, but in her rework from 2010, she got more logical outfits, like Who Wants to Run with Hot Pants Through Jungle Vegetation. And her body also got a rework, making her look more realistic. And I'm saying this carefully because there are women of all shapes and sizes, and there are women who look closer to her older models, but I guess if we're talking broad averages, her body has become more realistic in that sense. So please don't assume bad intent here, I'm just trying to get my point across. Did anybody care? In a negative sense. I don't remember any bad press about it. Everyone I know loves the reboots, except that she basically never dual wields her pistols anymore, which could have been an easy fix though. So there is a proper way to include DEI stuff that works and makes sense. Another example I saw are Leon's lines from Resident Evil that got reworked where before he would go, ugh, women, and now instead he goes like, story of my life. Which I much prefer, because the original felt a lot like boomer humor to me with like, I hate my wife jokes. Again, something you can put under the category of DEI, but done right. In that way, I'm all for it, and I'm very happy about the changes. But it is just straight out sexist, and has nothing to do with sexualization anymore, changing those lines. I just wanted to show that DEI can be done in a good way too. Even though at this point, it's probably better to scrap the whole acronym because it has so many negative connotations, and just come up with a new one. Now, feel free to release the comments and tell me what you think about the topic, and if you liked the video, I would appreciate it if you subscribed, so I'll see you in the next one.